It's a good afternoon to you, our teaming followers, let me put it that way. Students, researchers, even enthusiasts. This is the Organ House Concert and Seminar Series. We're back again another week, Thursday is here. Thank you to all of our friends and supporters who were with us over the weekend for the special program we had on DKO's sacredization of folk music. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your support, your coming around to be a part of that interesting experience. So we continue our weekly experience now, and I bid you all welcome. This is Mountaintop University, Department of Music. We'll call it Organ House. Yeah, you need to visit this place. The place full of organs. I mean, you can take that from me. So over here at the concert series, we have a way of making music appealing to all. Are you a student, a researcher, or even a journalist or general enthusiast? We make music appealing to all. Over here, we're glad to actually make music deliberative and contemplative for all. That's what we're bringing to the table. And I'm sure from our track record, you have come to terms with that already. We look where others may not in this research work. And every week like this, we bring all of this to the fore so that we can have a robust discussion on them. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for following. This is another session. Let's have a go at it. Today, we are looking at a very interesting gentleman who has taken a special interest in a unique aspect of music, following the cosmopolitan section of contemporary music. I want to introduce you this afternoon to a unique music scholar, Dr. Samuel A. Adejube. He holds a PhD in music and lectures at the Music Department, University of Ibadan. He holds a PhD in African music from the Institute of African Studies, University of Ibadan. His research explores Nigerian popular music in the urban landscape, with a focus on artists like Lagbaja. And I took a special interest in this because I've always had a session of following Lagbaja myself. And so I'm really looking forward to this experience where we are focusing on a unique artist like Lagbaja. So his ongoing academic interest is lying in areas of examining how music shapes everyday experience, reflecting on rhythm, structures, and struggles of aspiring urban life. Now, this is very interesting because we're looking at contemporary artists who are making experiments with their works, not just coming with the general conventional styles, but experimentation. And so that's why I'm really looking out for this session. So I'll bid you welcome to this experience. Dr. Samuel Adejube. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for the quite interesting introduction. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much. And I bring greetings all the way from Music Department, University of Ibadan. And thank you, sir.
Yeah, so you have the floor now.
Okay. Thank you.
Focusing on Lagbaja and the sound of global identity. Take us through it, sir.
All right. Once again, I want to appreciate the organizer for this privilege and opportunity to do this at the Thursday Organ Series, Concert and Seminar Series, organized by the Mountaintop University. This is good. I am happy to be here to take you through my academic journey. Why I said my academic journey is because it's an offshoot of my PhD work, and I would like to take you through that journey. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Our pleasure.
All right, so I'll share my slide, and then I can go with that. Okay. All right, all right. Okay. So, like I said, I want to talk on performing cosmopolitanism. I want to look at Lagos and Lagbaja and the sound of global identity. I want to look at performing cosmopolitanism, or let me say performing urbanity or urbanism. Um, those are words that is used interchangeably. We have the urban Lagos and we have the cosmopolitan Lagos idea or concept in Lagos. All right, to begin with, I would love to begin with by playing this music for us. It's an afternoon, so we can enjoy this music. Let me just play this for us. I hope you can hear the sound.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you so much. All right, you can dance and continue dancing to this. But the question is, what comes to mind when you hear this music? I know for some, it brings nostalgic moments. It's like an old school. It's not the popular Afrobeats we're used to, or Afropop, or even the Amapiano that we're used to now. This sound looks like the sound that sets the motion for the current Afrobeat and Amapiano and the experimental music that we have in popular music today. So when you hear this music anytime, any day, anywhere, probably on your way to church, for instance, and you hear this sound, what comes to mind? What attention does it bring to you? How do you perceive the sound? Does it sound local, global, or something in between? Does it sound like it's something that is Yoruba-ish in that nature, or something Nigerian? Or does it sound global, like it's a Western element that has been imported or infused into it? Or you can't just place it to anywhere. You can't place it to local. You can't place it to global. How does it sound? And a question again becomes that if Lagos had a soundtrack, what would it sound like? I think we can pause and think around it. Like, if the urban Lagos had a soundtrack, what sound will it be like? For instance, some people will, I think I asked my student this question one time like that, and I was hearing chaos, noise, maybe the building of the cars or of the traffic, or the marketers or the traders shouting and using every form of both musical sound and non-musical sound to invite customers or to market their products. Or even when you enter the Modware, or I think the Modware is phasing out already, the downfall in the morning, and then you hear different sound coming from the speaker of the downfall, or maybe you in the morning, you are just driving and then you hear the sound. So if Lagos has a soundtrack, and that is what performing cosmopolitan is all about. Looking at the sound in Lagos and looking at how all the musical sound, like I said the other time, and the non-musical sound are able to be infused together to bring out what is performing cosmopolitanism. Again, the fourth question is, how does music reflect the everyday experience of the city? You know, like a city, like an urban city in Lagos, how does music reflect that quotidian experience, that quotidian relevance that we have within the urban space? And we can take this concept again away from Lagos, for instance, and take it maybe to South Africa, to Johannesburg, and that's an urban city, or to Cairo in Egypt, an urban city, or to Accra in Ghana. And it's just understanding how music plays out in the everyday lifestyle of an average Lagosian that wakes up in the morning, and sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you hear songs like so that means music is used to move around the city from when you wake up to when you want to sleep at night. So that is what performing cosmopolitanism I want to engage this afternoon in this organ and seminar series. So let's go to the concept of Lagbaja. Who is Lagbaja and why am I interested in Lagbaja? You know, like I said the other time, apart from, you know, like I said earlier, this is an offshoot of my journey. This is a work from my PhD thesis, which I am trying to develop into an article, different articles. So this is one of the aspects I'm looking at. So the question is, why Lagbaja? Why all of a sudden you have an interest? Why do I have an interest in studying the person of Lagbaja? And especially looking at Lagbaja in the line of Lagos urban space or Lagos musical scene. The thing about the current Afrobeat, the current sound that we have today in the popular music industry in Nigeria, for instance, we discovered that Lagbaja is one of the people that paved way for that Afrobeat. Immediately Fela Anikulapo Kuti, and definitely scholars like Omojola actually talked about this. And I know in this organ and seminar series, for instance, we'll be looking at Nigerian music, we'll be looking like Omojola's work. And then in that yellow book of Omojola, popular music, for instance, it talks about how Fela Anikulapo Kuti started the Afrobeat genre and then moved into, before he died, and then people like Femi Kuti, son, and Lagbaja were at least the people that decided to continue this journey that was started by the great Fela Anikulapo Kuti. So I just thought of it that, look, a lot of work has been examined by Fela Anikulapo Kuti. I think we have one from Olaore who examined the music and the lifestyle of Fela Kuti, and we have a lot of scholarly attention on Fela Kuti. However, when it comes to Lagbaja, people like Samuel Ajayi, even Okusoya have engaged, scholars like them have engaged Lagbaja, and they engage him in that mask identity. Somewhere, for instance, we talked about the diplomacy that Lagbaja employs that is different from the direct approach that Fela Kuti employs. For instance, Fela Kuti will look at you straight in the face and speak to the government, speak to the ills and the vices of the government, the corruption. But Lagbaja initially started by using diplomatic approach. And we can look at that from the mask itself. What is the mask? You know, some people will tell you that Lagbaja is beside Ologunde or beside Ologunde is Lagbaja. However, in several interviews that Lagbaja has granted, one of the things we discovered is that without the mask, there is no Lagbaja. That means if you see someone outside without that mask, then that is not Lagbaja. Lagbaja is not Lagbaja without the mask. And the mask symbolizes anonymity and universality. The mask symbolizes an identity that is concealed, an identity that you don't want to reveal to people. And I think that was what Samuel also engages by looking at diplomacy. It's a sense that if I speak about the corruption in the government, for instance, or the democratic corruption, you can't arrest me because you don't even know who Lagbaja is, because it is the man behind the mask or the mask itself. So it's, and then the name Lagbaja also collaborate and then work hand in hand with the mask. Lagbaja in the Yoruba setting is nobody. Lagbaja can be everybody. Lagbaja can be nobody. Lagbaja can be somebody. So Lagbaja is the name that also symbolizes anonymity and universality. And it also speaks to that cosmopolitan nature, especially when you look to Lagos
And we're going to get there in a bit when I talk about how Lagos is a perfect example of cosmopolitanism as I engage in this work. So the man, Lagbaja, the mask already, the Yoruba masquerading and the modern masking, that's what the mask depicts. Yes, for instance, Ajayi in 2017 has looked at how the mask speaks directly about Yoruba masquerading. However, it's more than the Yoruba masquerading, because look at the picture you have of Lagbaja. That's an heart. That's an ingenuity. It doesn't really speak about that Yoruba masquerading. It also talks about the modern masking, the modern creativity that people use, maybe from the different materials that is being used to construct the masking, and the different way Lagbaja does his masking. In one of his videos, I think is indeed did high. Lagbaja did not use any material, any clothing material to do his masking. He used the helmet of this motorcycle helmet. That was what he used to conceal the identity, that facial identity that I was trying to promote, the identity that I was trying to promote. Also, looking at the musical influences, like I said, it started from the Fela Kuti Afrobeat, then infused with a lot of jazz, a lot of funk, and a lot of Yoruba musical elements, a lot of dundun drumming, a lot of bata drumming at some point also. And that gave him that unique identity that Lagbaja is not just a local man, but is, I want to call him a Pan-Africanist that brings up that Yoruba and infuse it with global elements so that it can be acceptable both within and without. And that's the reason why I say, okay, let's look at Lagbaja. Let's examine his work, not with a local lens or in a cosmopolitan lens. Now, sorry, this thing moves to conclusion. Let me just end the bit and move. Okay. Now, looking at Lagos, a cosmopolitan soundscape, a city of cultural convergence. I want to look at the Lagos as a perfect example of what cosmopolitan soundscape is all about. So, cosmopolitanism, as several authors have described it, is a shared identity, shared humanity, shared identity that and collective responsibility in spite of diversity. It's like saying that there is unity in diversity. And this has been exemplifying the prominence of Lagos as a rapidly growing mega city. If you look at cosmopolitanism, for instance, Pogate in 2017 examined what the word cosmopolitanism itself. It looks at it from the Greek word cosmos, which means world, and politis, which talk about citizen. So a cosmopolitan is assumed to be a citizen of the world. The more common modern meaning we can look at cosmopolitanism, or who is a cosmopolitan, is someone who understands and reflects and respects foreign culture, travel widely, and can interact with people from many societies. But when it comes to an urban scale, for instance, we look at cosmopolitanism as a space that occupies diverse population, that occupies different society, cultural hybridity. For instance, let's pick Lagos. The diverse population in Lagos, we have over 20 million residents in Lagos, with migrants from across states, across different states in Nigeria and beyond, from Ghana, even within Africa and outside Africa also, who comes into Lagos, whether because of the commercial or because of the influence that we have in Lagos as a major hub for trade, major hub for fashion, and also for entertainment. And the entertainment is growing rapidly. It's growing so rapidly. And especially when you look at music, when you look at our Nollywood, for instance, the entertainment scene in Lagos is growing, and it gives room for that diverse population. It gives room also for that multi-ethnic interaction that we have within Lagos. For instance, there's no area in Lagos you won't see the people from the north, and you won't see people from the south, the southwest, who comes together in Lagos and they coexist together. So despite the diversity, we still have this shared humanity, this collective responsibility that Lagos is our own, and we need to take Lagos to the next level and not look at our differences in making sure that Lagos is Lagos. So we look at that cultural convergence in Lagos, and we see that it's a perfect example for a cosmopolitan urban and soundscape. Also, one of the things that is also peculiar in Lagos is what I call urban contradiction or urban marginality. It's like a binary when we have at a side we have the wealthy, and on the other side we have the people who are not even middle class, who are maybe lower than the middle class. So we have wealth here, we have poverty here. At some areas too, we have order, we have chaos. At some area, we have ghetto, and we have the affluent cities in some area. And like they used to say in Lagos, there is this mainland and there is this island part also in Lagos, and that also contributes to the contextualization of urbanism in Lagos. Because urbanism, one of the things we look at urbanism is the fact that the population there, and then despite the fact that we have high-rise building also, we still have some suburbans that are like ghetto, around, and that's also one of the challenges that even the SDGs goals are trying to solve today, which contributes to the different concept about cosmopolitanism. All right, so I go to why then I want to look at Lagbaja and look at what performing cosmopolitanism is all about. So before I look at Lagbaja's work and examine the concept of cosmopolitanism, I want to examine his musical band, for instance. In an interview with Ego in 2024, for instance, Ego Iheanacho is the longest serving female member of Lagbaja musical band. She said, our band comprises individuals who hail from diverse cultural and geographical backgrounds, which creates a melting point of experiences and perspective within our musical family. When she was talking to me, she said, even she herself, she's not even a Yoruba person. She was not born in Lagos, but in that band, which is Colors Band, they were named Colors Band initially, he said they embraces her as if she was also part of them. So there was no, there was not a time that they casted out away because of differences as per cultural background or geographical background. And it also explained the cosmopolitan nature that Lagbaja brought up in Lagos and also imbibed in this musical band. Lagbaja himself was not also born in Lagos. According to him, he was born in Ilaori, in the Ilaori Kwara State of Nigeria, and then he moved to Lagos around 1990. His debut album was Ikira in 1993, and then later, with his influence with Fela Anikulapo Kuti, King Sunny Ade, Adejube, then he continued that post-colonial aspect to music, where he did like 8 different albums of 8 different musical albums. And also to picture that cosmopolitan nature, he has featured several world musicians also, like Papa Wemba from Democratic Republic from South Africa, and then the one that did I ever say I love you forever? I feature a lady who named Charlotte Serrano, a Spanish lady, a Spanish singer, and this explains that cosmopolitan nature in his music also. So apart from featuring his band that they met every day, for instance, Sammy Show also in an interview with him said that there was a ski bassist that was also part of Lagbaja's band then, who is from Cameroon, named King. He's from Cameroon, and he actually participated well in the band. So Lagbaja's band has always prided itself on being a diverse and inclusive group, bringing together individuals from various cultural backgrounds. And it also explained that even within the band themselves, not just the music, within the band, Lagbaja is someone that showcased that cosmopolitan nature by involving different members from different cultural background and geographical background in his band. Now, let's go to performing cosmopolitanism, and then let's look at how we can look at it. The music that I played initially, Conco Below, it's a danceable global groove. And when we look at it, we could see that it depicts the Lagos sound itself. Lagos is known for its hustling and bustling, people waking up early in the morning trying to beat the traffic. And then Conco below, though it's like, oh, it sounds like a party life. It also depicts the Lagos nightlife. I remember there was a time I was supposed to go to Lagos from Ibadan, and then I got to Lagos around 1 a.m. in the middle of the night, 1 a.m. And right there in the market, I was able to buy fried akara, like hot. And the woman was just frying the akara, and it was so hot. And I was like, 1 a.m. akara. I'm sorry for those who are in Ibadan. I'm actually in Ibadan at the moment. In Ibadan, when it's around 8 p.m., everybody just closes. You can't even buy anything fresh again. Everything is stale, kind of. But as at 1 a.m. in the middle of the night, the question is that, do these people sleep at all? If I could buy hot akara fresh from the frying pan, from the oil, and around 1 a.m., it shows the nightlife, the fighting spirit of an average Lagosian. And in Coco Below, you could see the syncopated Afrobeat groove that depicts such Lagos-like nightlife. You could see the call and response engaging the audience. If you are in the bus, for instance, in Lagos, and then somebody is talking, for instance, in Lagos, before you know it, you are on your own. They will call for your own opinion. And sometimes you are on the bike in Lagos. The bike man is asking you questions, and you're wondering, why are you talking to me? You don't even know me from anywhere. And sometimes they even be gisting you about what happened in their house. It talks about, and Lagbaja involved that call and response. Although call and response is a very common feature in African music, it engages the audience, different styles of call and response. However, Lagbaja also employs that to depict that cosmopolitan nature of Lagos. If you look at the themes also, it talks about the dance culture. It talks about accessibility to a broad audience. When you look at the language, the lyrical language used, the pidgin, the slang, Conco below itself, it's like a slang. And then a mix of both English, Yoruba, and pidgin English. It also makes it appealing to both the local and the international audience listener. And from Coco Below, we move to another one, which is no do, gra for me. And the first time I had no do, gra for me, I was thinking about Lagos as, there's something. I grew up in Lagos. Yeah, I did some of my teens live in Lagos. And then there's something they call first attack, that even when you want to fight, people don't want to fight, but they can talk. They can abuse themselves. They can say what, like, I'm going to beat you now. I will fight you now, beat you now. But he or she is not interested in the actual activity of fighting. But because he wants to use that word, and that's talk about a form of resisting oppression or bullying that we have in Lagos. If you are actually an average Lagosian, you don't want anybody to bully you. You want to really find, and you really have what they call a response or a reply to everything that comes to you. So in the song No Do Gra for me, it's like, don't oppress me. Don't oppress me. I have my own rights. So the person that is talking does not have the power or the energy or the potential to fight. But at that moment, he wants to use his words to actually resist oppression. And that was what Lagbaja used with the song Gra, No Do Gra for me. Although he's also talked a little about political commentary, where you face the government and say, look, we want to resist oppression at all costs. Then looking at the musical picture in this Gra, the system I used in analyzing this music is similar to that of Omojola, who I know the organ and seminar series have been engaging for a while. And he's also our father, and I pay a lot of homage to him. And then I use also Professor Kayode Samuel's styles of analyzing, and I need to recognize them because they are our fathers. And Professor Kayode Samuel is actually my mentor, and I really need to acknowledge them here. So looking at the poly rhythm that was used is also typical to Afrobeat. The diatonic melody is easy to sing along, yet socially powerful. Now, why Lagbaja uses easy to sing along melodies is Lagosian doesn't have time to go for something complex. As they jump from one bus to another, as they try to live that everyday life, they also want easy to remember melody, easy to remember danceable song that they can sing along and they can use to challenge societal injustice. And also is rooted within the Nigerian lingua structure. Like Nodugragba is like the language on the streets. It's not a language that is how will I put it now? So alien. It's found on the street. So the street now becomes an agency for compositional techniques for most popular music artists. And they also sing for the street. Also, the song also encourages social activism where you can use it for any activism or any rallying around you want to do. It also encourages it. I don't know what's my time now. Please let me know so that I can be social. All right, this please one continue. Is Oweku.
We'll prompt you appropriately. Thank you. Continue,
all
please.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. This is Oweku Ekolombe. I want us to listen to this. All right. I still want us to watch a video on YouTube. I'm going to play that while I talk about the last one. But looking at the song, he said, Oweko Ekolombe. And it talks about the urban survivor. It talks about the survivor mentality that is embedded in an average Lagosian. So initially, when people migrate to Lagos, they have this utopia that Lagos is where they can make their biggest money, biggest dollars, biggest millions or billions. They have this idea that if they get to Lagos, they can pluck money on the street or they will get job easily, and then they can start making money and living that lifestyle that the Lagos people are always portraying. And this phenomenon is not, though people might not think about that with Lagos any longer, but they've transferred this ideology even to the concept of Japa, that they believe that immediately they move out of the shores of Nigeria, anywhere they found themselves, there's money on the street of London, money on the street of US, money on the streets of in Italy there. And so that mentality already gave that I wouldn't call it a wrong idea already, because it gives them that notion. It gives them the different expression that we have about an average Lagosian in the pursuit of money or in the pursuit of daily survival. In my initial thesis, when I was working on this work, I used a theory called the Maslow hierarchy of needs, which gives us that pyramid. And it talks about the struggle people do to enter into the first level of that pyramid, which is physiology, what to eat, what to wear, and where to live. And it talks about how people do everything possible to enter into that first level of the hierarchy of needs. So in Oweko Ekolongbe, Lagbaja used it, both the musical picture, the musical element, and the lyrical content to talk about the survivor, the economic reality that is in Lagos. The fact that the cost of living, the financial struggle shows that sometimes when you make your money is spent also in Lagos. For instance, rent, the money you pay for rent, even for food, things are on the high side. And the reality that they had before was an utopia reality that once they get to Lagos, everything will work fine. So, and if you look at the music picture Lagbaja uses here, he engaged a funky bass line, not too fast, but it mimic the city fast-paced rhythm, percussive layers. It mimic the steps, the financial struggles that you do in engaging your daily bread, your daily 2K that they used to say now. I'm looking for my daily 2K. So it's mimic them. And so it shows that the cosmopolitan nature also, it depicts the cosmopolitan nature, because by the time you get to Lagos, you thought you are coming to a well spelled out space that you can make it. But by the time you got to Lagos, you discover that it's not a well space. It's not black and white. There are a lot of gray areas too. And it talks about that diversity. And not just with people now, it talks about the diversity of the struggle. Because right now, people in Lagos will say that you don't have to have one source of income. It has to be 2, 3, 4 sources of income, which sometimes cannot even sustain you. So in understanding the urban life of Lagos, that would also employ his music to talk about that economical struggle. Because you cannot talk about Lagos, for instance, and talk about the party life and talk about the hustling and bustling and not remember that the economic life of Lagos is also there. Also, if you look at the binary structure that I established earlier about the concept of cosmopolitan nature of Lagos, the wealthy and the non-wealthy, or those who live in the middle class or the low class, you discover that despite the fact that people shout about the cost of living in Lagos, there is still a lot of play center, a lot of relaxed environment, a lot of cinemas where people still spend the money. So even when people are complaining about the fact that there is no money, you still at night go to clubs, go to clubs, parties, cinemas. You see people still spending a lot of money, and you're wondering, you're complaining there's no money, but there's still a lot of people spending on this part. So it also depicts that urban cosmopolitan nature that there is not here, is not there. It's diversity, but it's in that diversity, there's still the unity part of it. So one of the things that brings everybody together is actually the pursuit of money. For instance, the lady in the story that I said the other time, the lady who sold akara to us by 1 a.m., she's also pursuing money. And she believed that it is around that 1 a.m. that she can sell to some of us who are travelers, who are migrants that are just migrating to Lagos, who does not understand the whereabouts of Lagos. So in this absurdity of Lagos pricing, in this absurdity of the cost of living, the financial struggle of Lagos, we still have Lagos still enjoying themselves, looking for a way to have fun in their own way. So no matter the struggle, the cosmopolitan side of Lagos still shows that Lagos still find a way, Lagosians still find a way to enjoy themselves and to have fun in Lagos. Now, I want to play this, which is Nothing for You. It talks about the loss and the cosmopolitan emotion. I think I will have to stop sharing and play from my YouTube.
40 something, I might be 50 something. In my heart, I'm 20 something. Don't look at my belly, it's a sign of good living. So you would know, say Baba na Father. I might be 30 something, I might be 40 something. In my heart, I'm 20 something. Mama, what do you call me? She pop a little one in there. Yellow feet, my back, Baba, need Father, yeah. Oh, more, anything for me, yeah.
Lagbaja, nothing for you.
Kilo day, oh, more, anything for me, show more.
Lagbaja, nothing for you.
Oh, to there, oh, more, boss, anything for me, Babo, for me, say.
Lagbaja, nothing for you.
Kilo day, oh, more, anything for me, yeah.
Lagbaja, nothing for you.
All right. So this is Lagbaja, nothing for you. And it talks about love, it talks about laws, and it talks about the cosmopolitan emotion that we have in Lagos. You know, at some point there is this notion that there is no love in Lagos because everybody is in the pursuit of money. So even when it comes to even love or emotion, you know, it's what explain the urban setting. The law of the heartbreak explain the urban settings. It explain, but the question is that love and heartbreak, is it not in the rural setting also? However, my research is on the urban setting, and one of the things I discovered within the urban setting is that love and heartbreak are two binary things that happens regularly on a daily basis in the urban setting. And because of the pursuit of money, because of the different way that people pursue happiness. Now, in the rural setting where people are contented, people are assumed to be contented with what they have, whether the farming system or the hunting system that they have. There is no appeal, there is not much appeal for affluence. They stay in the mud house, they go to farm in the morning, they go and harvest. There is no appeal for, I want to eat this international cuisine, I want to go to these very expensive restaurants or 7-star hotel. They are so content. But within the urban setting, when we have those elements, when we have those options of high-rise building, I want to live in this kind of apartment, I don't want to stay in the mainland again, I want to move to the island. And even within the island, there's this area I want to stay that is different from that area. And when there's a lot of pursuit like that, then love seems to be missing. Then love and heartbreak now become a binary option that coexist together. And at some moment, it's difficult to explain what is love because of this pursuit of financial gratification. And also, when we look at the musical element the Lagbaja employs here, the concept of code mixing English, Yoruba, and Pidgin, which is synonymous to Lagbaja's musical work, it explains that different language and multi-ethnicity that we have in Lagos, which is also a marker of cosmopolitanism. The saxophone employs it has the sophistication aspect there, and the guitar riffs, it shows emotion, it shows nostalgia also. It shows how music can have its way in the love scene, in the love environment. Also, the lyrics also appeals to both the local and the global audience because it talks about the everyday reality in Lagos. It's in Lagos that you can go to the street. You can have it in different urban settings where you follow a lady and you keep shouting, and then you engage what is called toasting. There, you toast the lady, and the lady will look at you and size you up. And then there was a language that they used to use then, and the lady will look at you and size you up and say, "Me see what it was so wire." And then so it's this this struggle for love that happens in the urban Lagos. And Lagbaja had to showcase this. Because in the video, for instance, you see how Lagbaja is trying to, in quote, toast the lady, woo the lady, and then the lady still replying with nothing for you, nothing for you. And we know that towards the end, there was a something for you for Lagbaja. There was a something for you towards the end. It shows the struggle that an average Lagosian man goes through in wooing their significant other. Because sometimes, if you are not capable financially, you find that struggle in asking a lady out or in engaging in love, in the real sense of love. And because you don't have that financial capability to maintain that Lagos lifestyle that has been depicted by the urban setting of Lagos, by the urban space in Lagos. So that's what performing cosmopolitanism is all about. It's about how Lagbaja uses this music to talk about the cosmopolitan ideas, cosmopolitan concept that we have in Lagos, the emotional universality. And I when I was listening to this song, for instance, I remember that if you look at what Fraser said, Robert Fraser, a scholar of cosmopolitanism, he said, music embodies the very essence of cosmopolitanism. And then he talks about how Lagos, a prime example of cosmopolitanism, stand as a melting point of diverse ethnic community hailing from a multitude of Nigerian regions and even extending beyond national border. If you look at this law, for instance, you will discover that in Lagos, in the urban setting, not just Lagos, you discover that you have a Yoruba man marrying an Igbo lady, for instance, an Hausa lady marrying a Yoruba man, and then just people coexisting together, even in peace and harmony, and sharing love, sharing loss, sharing heartbreaks, and also sharing emotion together. And this all explains the cosmopolitan nature that we have in Lagos. By way of ending this discussion, by way of concluding, Lagbaja music stands as a cultural bridge. As musical hybridity, for instance, it blends the Yoruba, the Pidgin English, it blends different musical genres, resting or pivoting on the Afrobeat that was created by Fela Anikulapo, merging with funk, with highlife, with jazz, and I must state here, like with different Yoruba drumming element, and then it's important to state that Lagbaja, a Pan-Africanist, didn't neglect the Yoruba drumming element. It's so pronounced in his composition, and it also talk about him promoting the Yoruba culture even far beyond the local setting, even to the global setting. Also, global urban narrative. Lagbaja music captured the dynamism, the contradiction, and the quotidian realities of an average Lagosian. And then his music also engages with themes of politics, economics, love, survival, and it makes Lagos a metaphor for global urban life. And lastly, global identity. Lagbaja music reflects Lagos status as a melting pot of cultures, a melting pot that connects both local and international audience together. Thank you. This is the presenter interacting with Ego Lagbaja. Thank you so much for your attention. And I'm open to comments, to questions, so that I can make this work a better one for publishing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I really appreciate that. That was quite an exposition. We really appreciate that. Some enlightening session you have given us. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Cosmopolitan approach of Lagbaja in his music. I was also waiting for you to. I know it must be in the broad write-up you have, where he's also taking us to the technologies in Lagos. Where I listened some years ago, where Natalie Cole presented one of her father's classics years after the man was gone, and she presented it singing along with the man. The same thing that Natalie Cole did with Nat King Cole then, Lagbaja repeated it when he did Abami. And he was literally conversing with the man. in that album. I mean, technology. So that's another aspect of urbanism that exists in Lagos, which Lagbaja has brought to the fore. And I think I'm sure it's part of what you have in the broad setting. And I was hoping you are going to take us through that, because we're going to not just elementary technology now. We are going to AI. We're going to a lot of interesting technological, musical fusion, and of course, Lagos is at the forefront of that. And so I was going to ask you. Okay, you want to say something?
No.
Okay, I was going to ask you what happened to Motherland. Did you find that out when you were?
That's a good question.
When you were
I think I was
with
there.
it?
I was there 2 years ago. And there's been a lot of reconstructing that's going on there. I use the word reconstruction because so many things have been pulled down and then they're trying to build again. And I think I met the manager at site then.
Okay.
He was telling me that Lagbaja visit once in a while to oversee what is going on. I think another question that someone might ask me, that where is Lagbaja now? Lagbaja is no longer in the country. He travels up and down, sometimes back to the country. And I think that's one of the reasons why the motherland is not moving the way we want it to move. And it's no longer that music scene that we know.
All right, thank you very much. I was also, looking forward to your presenting how he infused, yes, the batas and the omele's and the local drums into his works, which actually is more prominent than the Western instrument. But there was also a time when he brought in an orchestra to back him up. That's another introduction of cosmopolitanism, right? When he did that, it was such a unique approach to it, and that really appealed to me then. So all of that made Lagbaja's music very appealing to all and sundry, not just the people who want to listen to Bata or Omele. He appealed to the scholars like you and I who listen to Mozart and Handel, right? It appeals to people on the street because he uses their language, and it makes it a whole potpourri of appeal to everybody who listens to them. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that very interesting and educative outlook of cosmopolitanism in Lagbaja's works. Any more questions from our listeners and followers?
Thank you so much. I want to quickly comment on what you said about the scenario you brought up in Never Far Away.
Okay.
In another seminar that I had like a year ago, where I painted that scenario about post-colonialism. When people think of post-colonialism, they think about sometimes they go the extreme of abandoning everything that has to do with colonialism or the Western culture. We can't abandon, for instance, we are live now talking on Zoom. We can't really abandon it totally. But it's in a way of showcasing our culture too. For instance, in that music video of Never Far Away, they were already the drumming ensemble, the bata and the dudu ensemble doing their stuff. Then these people came in with suits and with Western orchestra, and they were walking in. And in a bid to promote, because the question many people will ask is that if Lagbaja collected their suit from them and gave them kembe and traditional attire, then he should collect the violin, the strings from them and give them omele or no, that's not post-colonialism. Post-colonialism is that in the midst of Western presentation, we can do that, having an idea of promoting the African culture. Understand? Because we can't neglect it totally. And that was and that also showcased that cosmopolitan nature in Lagbaja's musical work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. When he gave them the new clothes, of course, he couldn't have taken the instrument from them. He has given them a background with the original local instrument. So they were just playing over that. So it's a fusion, more like a fusion rather than taking it from the West alone. So that was quite nice. Thank you very much. Feishaton, Ijima Kiwa, you are the floor. I can see your hand.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I want to commend Dr. Adejube for a wonderful presentation, and it's actually opened my eyes to hitherto unstudied dimension of Lagbaja's music. For someone who an ardent follower of Lagbaja music, so but I'm interested in if you're saying Lagbaja's, there's a cosmopolitan dimension and very prominent in Lagbaja's music, then I wonder how would we situate a couple of his tracks. I'm very conversant with Lagbaja's work, so I'm going to mention like 2 or 3 tracks. Akebaje 1 and Akebaje 2. That's one track. And then Banke, where he actually did a very comprehensive, a rich celebration of names and names and what they stand for. So how do we situate that, especially when we look at Akebaje as a celebration of class vis-a-vis morals and vis-a-vis moral and virtue? Do you understand? So I want to see, where do we situate that? Which takes over what? Is it location, moral, and virtue, or the other way around? Especially Akebaje and Banke, because even in Banke, it was the same thing. Don't do this to my daughter. If you do this to my daughter, you and I will wear the same trouser. But this is what this daughter means to me. And went to reel out names and what they mean. So where do we situate that? This, I mean, in the cosmopolitan topography, or in the cosmopolitan cosmopolitan blanket that you have painted of Lagbaja's music. I hope that is clear, Dr. Adejube.
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you so much, Mr. Faye. I appreciate that. I can add to that track also by adding Tokumbo to it too, in that same flow. Now, you know, when I look at cosmopolitan, like I was talking in response to what the organizer said, the presenter said the other time, that post-colonialism is not to abandon the Western element in Western music totally. Now, one of the things Lagbaja did, like I said in my presentation, is a Pan-Africanist, or I like to call him a Pan-Yoruba advocate, who really loved the concept of Omoluabi in the Yoruba context. He loved the concept of morality and promotes the Nigerian identity. But in promoting the Nigerian identity, like I said, we cannot let go of that Western influences that is also within us. We can't let go of it totally. So in Akebaje Banke, even Tokumbo was just was just such tracks that Lagbaja uses to promote the Yoruba identity, the Yoruba morality. You know, aesthetic within the Yoruba, as explained by Roland Abiodun, even by Pipitech, when it comes to African aesthetic, is much more than the exterior, the design, the musical element. It's much more than that. It's to what is within, what you carry within, the moral identity you carry within. And that was one of the things Lagbaja did. And lastly, let me say this. I know it's something I'm going to look at later, but let me say this also. At some point, when Lagbaja was singing Tokumbo, he said, "There's no place like home." At some point in one of also his track, he said, "Look, he can't really travel out. Nigeria must be better." In another track, Nigeria must be sweet again. He really wants to stay within the country. But seeing the reality of what the country is saying, Lagbaja is no more in the country. So again, it's dynamic, and culture itself is dynamic. It keeps moving. So if he has started to be a Yoruba Pan-African advocate, and then it keeps moving down to cosmopolitanism, at some point there's a movement. It's culture. It keeps flowing. Like Prof. Kasama will say, it's music of a culture cannot go into extinction. It can only metamorphosize. It can only change and keep changing. And change is the only thing that is permanent in this world. But thank you so much for your contribution. I'm going to look at it also and see how I'm going to answer that in the main work. Thank you, Mr. Faye.
All right, thank you very much, sir. A little contribution to that question. You painted a picture of what the lecture is actually talking about. in that is the contemporary setting we have in Lagos. Those of us who were brought up in the village, those values were instilled in us. But over here, it's a different thing in Lagos. The contemporary Lagos home, you dare not touch their children. They don't flog you anymore. They are literally pampering you. I mean, that's the contemporary Lagos. If you were brought up in the village, that is not you. You understand what I'm saying? So it's still the cosmopolitan way of life that Lagos has adopted, that the man is presenting in his music. So it's actually still part of the general picture we're painting from Lagbaja's music as a cosmopolitan culture in there. And that's what I think he is trying to say. Have you also noticed from another point of view, the prayerful Lagbaja and the prayerful contemporary session we have in Lagos? You see churches everywhere. It comes with a very subtle, not the flamboyant onigele or the anything from you thing. It came around to give a piety kind of system of, oh, we need to pray. And and it came to the place of making everybody sober. That's another aspect of Lagos that, you're walking down the street and you get to a church and the atmosphere changes. Or you see the church people and the atmosphere changes. That's another part of Lagos that Lagbaja has carefully and effectively, with his music, depicted. What do you think?
You're right. You're right about that. I also, like even one of my best track with Lagbaja is Emimimo. Though
Okay,
it wasn't really
yeah.
talking about church, but it's talking about the politics. It was a bit about the politics, about the Nigerian political space. But the concept of Emino was already borrowed from the church. It also speaks about the fact that in Lagos, for instance, like you said, almost every street you have churches there, and even in different clothes and different occasion by Lagbaja, he even say that if you are going to church, it's a different clothes you're going to wear. So it's also part of what make Lagos Lagos. The church system, even the mosque system, the religious system in Lagos, everything surrounding that Lagos. And that was what Lagbaja was singing all about. He was singing to portray the identity of that everyday Lagosian, whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or whether you are someone that just want to also and make means and make money. And like Mr. Fei said, he still did not forget that idea of morality, of omoluabi that you are supposed to depict. Even if the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos is taking you away from that omoluabi that you are bringing down. If for instance, in this no be your village, Ikolowa, this na Lagos, go far. When he was talking about that one, he was talking about environmental issue, for instance. He pointed the fact that, look, you can't come to Lagos and pour your debris and pour your litter everywhere. This is not your village where it is possible. But if you look at it, sometimes the village is more cleaner than Lagos. Sometimes, except for the fact that sometimes in the village, they defecate openly and they do so many things. But it's relative. You can't really, because, like I pointed out, the different binary section that we have in Lagos, the have and the have not. In the have, for instance, when you go to some area that they're affluent, you dare not even find a single piece of paper on the floor because it's clean. And then by the time you move on to another area, that place looks like dungeon already. Do you understand? So you could see that disparity. And that was what Lagbaja is singing about. That is pride, and that's exactly what gave that cosmopolitan nature of Lagos.
Thank you very much, sir. A certain Odin Abayi, sorry if I'm murdering the name. I saw your hand earlier. Sorry, we kept you waiting. Could you come with your question
Thank
now?
you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, Odiri. Yes.
Odiri. Sorry, Odiri.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Adejube. It's quite an interesting study, and I would say it's multidisciplinary in nature. Pardon me, I got in the middle of it, so what I have to say, probably comments or questions, if it takes you back, I hope you would just pardon me. Now, I would like to find out what the actual perspective is to this research, whether it's Did you come from the angle of music? Is it a musical methodology, or what exactly? I talk about this because there is a level of intertextuality that you have identified. You've also talked about identity, which is again another aspect of pragmatics. You've talked about the language, talked about the mix of the language and all of these things. So there are a lot of things, that you find in this. So this is like an amorphous study, like an elephant. So maybe when you touch the air, you say, this is what I feel. So this is an area you might need to give attention to, because you have to streamline what you want to do. So I don't know, for the methodology, how did you now select the samples that you're discussing? Mr. Moderator mentioned something very important about technologies, which Lagbaja really adopts. In the video, Nothing for You, that you showed, in fact, for the first time, I was able to connect even the fact that as he's drumming in the sitting room, there is a drum that is somebody drumming in the photograph that is right there. So in a way, his presentation is already futuristic of how a cosmopolitan world should be. Now, the idea of multimodality might help if you situate that within your theoretical paradigm that you would use, because at least to help you to navigate whether you want to look at some semiotic or some visual effects that you highlighted, that might help. Then just for maybe on a lighter note, I would just say that there's actually fewer villages now in Nigeria than it used to be, even at the time that Lagbaja sang. I even here in Ibadan, where we are, we've seen how it has expanded. So that rural person, that rural love that you may have alluded to, may be now a cosmopolitan love situation setting or context. So these are some of the things that you might need to look at, within the present reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Odirin. Dr. Odirin, sorry. Thank you so much. I know that the linguistic scholar in you will not pardon me. Will really want me to look at it. I love what you're saying. There's a part that I missed when I was presenting, and I didn't miss. I just want to structure the time. I don't want to go beyond the time given to me. Actually, I looked at this from an interdisciplinary approach, from an ethnomusicological approach. And then looking at the theory, I also engages Vygotsky's social constructivist theory. And why? It's because of the social identity and social learning that happen within that. For instance, that theory, social constructivism, it's a social learning theory developed by Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky, which posits that individuals actively participate in the creation of their own knowledge. And why did I pick that? Because Vygotsky, for instance, outlined three major concepts concerning cognitive development. Culture is important in learning. Language is the root of culture. And individuals learn and develop within the context of their role in the community. You understand? So culture is important in learning. Language is the root of culture. Individuals themselves, they learn and develop within that context of their role, the role they play in the community. And why I picked up Vygotsky social constructivism is so that I can use that lens to engage Lagbaja's musical work in explaining the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos, because it's a social phenomenon. It's not standing in, and music in Africa, for instance, is predominantly functional. It's not standing alone. It's not like Western music that even when you go for Western musical performance, you sit down as a guest. They perform for you. You are not even permitted to participate. You're not permitted to even clap or make an applause. But an African setting, a true African setting, from the beginning of the musical performance to the end, whether you pay money to enter, you are also involved in the musical performance. Sometimes in the African setting, the musician will even look at you and tell you, and you shout, and then he turns you to a chorus. He turns you to one of the members of the chorus. The audience becomes a chorus, and then you have call and response happening between the musician and the audience that are meant to just come and just spectate. So in Africa, music is not standing
music, let me be careful of my word. I'm not generalizing, but most music in Africa is not just standing aloof. It's performing a function. It's and that's why when I look at Lagbaja, when I involve Lagbaja, for instance, I'm seeing him as someone that looks into the streets or looks to the people, and the people becomes agency of compositional techniques, and also he also sings about the people. So the people, they are performing a dual function here. They are giving him that inspiration to compose, and also he's also singing about the people, telling the people what to do. Not just the people, also the government, the different stakeholders that engage that social community. And that's why I involved that social constructive theory, which is a very vital aspect of my work that I really engages with it. Then talking about the technology, I appreciate what you said about the video, and that was the reason why I played the video. For instance, if you look at the mobile phone that Lagbaja uses to call, you know that mobile phone is not in the system again, for instance. You could see the black one, you see it's not in the system. So I am seeing Lagbaja not just as a musician, but as someone who started that evolution that we have in Afrobeat today. Afrobeat today, it has gone far. And then they now engages that urbanity in its reality. Even when you look at this Love Did Nothing For You that I played last, like somebody was saying Nothing For You. Burna Boy, for instance, wake up one morning and sing breakfast. Last, now everybody go chop breakfast, shayo. It's because, and somebody will say because somebody actually served him breakfast, or he was one that served someone breakfast. That serving breakfast is a street language that means that it breaks someone's heart. Maybe you proposes to marry someone, and later you say you are no longer interested. So if the street language for that is serving breakfast. So you could see, but this is not new. Lagbaja already started something like that. So it's like it paved way for the new Afrobeat, the Amapiano that we have, that is now a global sound that can't be seen as a local sound any longer. But thank you. Definitely in another set, like I said, I'm developing this for a paper. In another set, I'm going to talk about the technology, then the multimodality that you talk about to be useful in another set. Also in my thesis actually, but in another aspect of the paper I'm trying to develop. But for this one, I just want to walk around performing cosmopolitanism and just focus on that aspect of how his musical world speaks to cosmopolitanism. Thank you, Dr. Odin.
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate that. Thank you for bringing it to the place of concise appreciation. There's a certain Samuel. I can see your hand. Hello, Samuel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, so well done, Dr. Adejube. I really appreciate the presentation, though I wasn't here from the beginning, but I was able to listen to most part of it. So I just want to speak to, I just want to make a few comments that, would you say that part of Lagbaja's cosmopolitan nature of composition, of performing his music, is also shown in one of his tracks, Woman, talking about patriarchy, addressing the issue of patriarchy and gender inequality, trying to talk about who is man without woman, just trying to say there is this patriarchy thing in Nigeria and the whole of Africa where the woman is relegated to the kitchen and to the other room, just like one of our past presidents mentioned. I think that one of the cosmopolitan nature of Lagbaja's music is the fact that it keeps talking about prevalent issues in the society, in the community that we have found ourselves. Like you have alluded to the fact that music has to do with culture, language, and so many other things, making the music of Africa very, very functional. So I don't know if your discourse also looks into this prevalent discourse. Recently there is an issue in the House of Assembly that is still ongoing now of accusation of the president of the Senate, maligning the women in the House and all of that. I think that is still a reflection of these things that Lagbaja had seen and had talked about in his music. I will appreciate if your study also look into these things as well, just to enlighten the society much more in the academic perspective. Lagbaja has done something in the artistic now, in the performative side of it. Like if your discourse can also look into these things. And also, if you look at the video of Woman, like you have mentioned, technology, he also used technology. You see in the video, if you've seen that video, you see that at some point in the video, women just disappeared from the video and we were left with men alone. And he was using that to depict the fact that if we do not have women, men cannot actually survive. So I think Lagbaja uses both technology, culture, and everyday life to explain or to kind of paint a picture of what an ideal society should be. So I consider this discourse of yours a very powerful one, and should be broadened to look at other aspects of everyday cosmopolitan Lagos as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. You want to make a response?
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel. I don't know, but I just have to reply. I want to on trying to reply or to respond to your comment. It's not a question. I would like to appreciate my mentor. I think he's on Discord, Professor Kayode Samuel, because one of the first people we moved out of this thesis was about women. The same, and then although we blended with Shola Lise Obirinimi also, where we talked about these languages way of talking against patriarchy system and trying to talk about woman, like you said, who is man without the woman. And then he used even the biblical narrative that Adam minus Eve is zero. And I love the scenario you pointed out also. But I think what you're saying now, I think I'm being challenged to even go back, and because there are new discourse around this feminized gender issue. And I think I have a professor on Discord who his current research right now is on feminized corruption. And that's Professor Sharon Omotosho. He's on feminized corruption. And it's also like the example you gave about the National Assembly, what is happening around there. I think she's a voice. She's a voice in that field. But in engaging cosmopolitanism, I think I'm going to bury your idea. Thank you so much. And I won't forget to also still include, despite that there's a paper already on Google Scholar that we published together with Professor Kayode Samuel on gender. I think we can still revisit that issue because there are also some other things that can be seen from that video itself or even from the lyrics to talk about patriarchy, to talk about how women should not be neglected. I think it's a voice that is coming up now. Thank you, Dr. Samuel, for that addition, for that comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sam. Good response. I want you to start thinking, maybe in your conclusion, of what is the future of Lagbaja with respect to a more contemporary setting we have now, in terms of optimizing our local instruments over the Western one over time. Because I think Afrobeat, the contemporary Afrobeat is not doing so much of it. Lagbaja made it a big thing. When you were playing earlier, you were already saying Onibata Yokare even before they got to that point, which means you can appreciate the place of that prominence from Bata and the Omele keeping the rhythm behind it and all that. So what's the future of all of that with respect to our emerging Afro music in the cosmopolitan setting? I want to listen to the question of Dr. Oladile. I can see your hand. Let's go that way first. Dr. Oladile, are you ready?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Adejube, for the great presentation. I hope you can hear me. Okay,
I
thank
can
you
hear
so
you.
much. Okay, thank you for your presentation. It's quite insightful. Yeah. So I'm interested in a few aspects of your presentation and some of the responses you've provided to some of the questions that have emerged in this process also. So the notion of cosmopolitanism is will probably be my starting point. Yeah. And now, of course, the idea of cosmopolitanism was was one of the it has become more becoming like a cliche today, but in the last, let's say, 10 years, it was one of those, catchy theoretical lens that people throw here and around, and people have done a lot with it. For instance, Stephen Feld in music studies, particularly jazz, in five centuries of jazz in Ghana, I'm sure that is 2012, thereabout. Then also, of course, in literature, that's where the notion of cosmopolitanism also resonates so well. But situating Lagbaja within cosmopolitanism, I am thinking, and here is one of my thoughts. The point is Lagbaja really representing cosmopolitanism? Since, according to your definition, cosmopolis, politics, and which is about, city, the way you define your cosmopolitanism and the way you use it, of course, the way it connotes something out there that people, always needs to go and people need to aspire to it. And that's, of course, that's what the common idea of cosmopolitanism, and that's the very idea why many people have, challenged the term or problematized the terms particularly in African studies or African popular culture. Instead of that, I'm sure you also know, people have rather, people align more with the idea of Afropolitanism rather than cosmopolitanism. Afropolitanism meaning Afro plus politanism, which in Afro, which denotes Africa, and politanism from politis, the Greek word for citizen. That is, cosmopolitanism with an African roots. That is what Afropolitanism entails. But on the other hand, cosmopolitanism is just, something rooted in somewhere, particularly in the Western world. And the Lagbaja, which is the subject of your work, resonate more with that Afropolitanist aesthetics. Look at the music, the band, the outlook, rooted in Africa, but everywhere in terms of sound, even in terms of mobility. The idea of Lagbaja itself is about somebody rooted, but rooted in many places. Yeah. So, but the question is, how do you think about this? Cosmopolitanism, don't you think that is problematic? Or, yeah, let's start from there.
Okay, thank you so much. Coincidentally, when I started this work, the word cosmopolitanism was not in my title. It was actually Afropolitanism that was in my title. And but it was difficult to conceptualize because of literature. The word Afropolitanism was assumed in my reading to be first used by Haile Selassie. And Haile Selassie, in his work, Bye Bye, I can't remember the title again, Bye Bye something.
Okay, let me just help you with a few things. Like I said, the work itself is rooted in literature. Haile Selassie, Ghana Must Go.
Ghana, yeah.
Teju Code, Open City.
Too, yeah.
Then also Agone Barrett,
actually,
Black
There's this actually Bembe too that also came up with the concept.
Yeah, I'm even hoping these places where the work is more resonated, Black as Agone Barrett. These are literary work that are actually, underscores the notion of Afropolitanism, you know, but you can continue here.
All right, so thank you so much for that. So but I discovered that since it's literature and the closest thing to music being used with Afropolitan was this man that talked about Fela. I think it's Waterman, I guess. And so it was difficult to conceptualize in the sense that the same meaning I was struggling with cosmopolitanism was also being used with Afropolitan. At some point, it means an African citizen who moved out of the African continent and then want to represent Africa within, outside the continent. Outside the continent. Like, it's like talking about an African identity outside of Africa. That's what several people have been used to that. But in the way you conceptualize it right now, it really makes sense to situate Lagbaja within that context. However, when it comes to cosmopolitanism, because like you said, it's a word people throw up and down, and then we have different contextualization that's being used around it. So it's easy to just pick one. For instance, like I said, I pick Robert Fraser, for instance. I pick Poge, and most of them, what you just talked about cosmopolitanism, if we don't go with the meaning, the etymology of it, cosmos and politics, we talk about the world and the politics people, we looked at it as the idea of just shared humanity, shared responsibility in spite of diversity, in spite of diversity. And initially, when Lagbaja started, you cannot use the word cosmopolitan or cosmopolitanism for his work, until when it started. And that was where the question of Mr. Feyi came up, for instance. Because those first track, second track, musical albums, you can't really talk about the concept of cosmopolitanism. But as he moved in this journey of musical journey, he started experimenting different ideas, like the different people he features in his work that are not African, that are not Nigeria, for instance. Even the Did I by Charlotte Serrano, Spanish singer, and every of the musical elements. So it's easier to just place him within that cosmopolitan idea than Afropolitan. Because the Afropolitan, like Dr. Odimi did for me today, for instance, when I was presenting my case around the Afropolitan, different people that are not music scholars were having issue with the word Afropolitan. But with cosmopolitan, it was easy to say because we have different conceptualization around it. So it's easy to just pick one, and that's why Poge was easy for me to pick. Robert Fraser was easy for me to pick and situate in within that concept. That's the closest answer I will say to this.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I think Lagbaja himself signifies that notion of Afropolitanism. If you notice, Africa lives so. Africa lives so. So Africa is okay. Well, Lagbaja is a phenomenon that aligns itself with Africa everywhere. You know, like I said, I think somebody was talking about the notion of Afropolitanism. Now, perhaps that person is new on this platform. Afropolitanism is one of the, how will I put it now? One of the mantra on this platform. This platform is one of the key points and point of departure and entry point on this platform is the notion of Afropolitanism, postmodernism. So if that person is new, Oluwaseun Abimbola, you are welcome to the Organ House Concert and Seminar Series. Yeah. So, but back to Dr. Adejube, thanks so much for your work. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to your further engagement. So I just thought to, open that layer to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. One more hand I can see there. Mr. Shimuwaje, you're welcome, sir. Shimuwaje.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Adejube, for your wonderful presentation. It was quite charging. It was insightful. I came in sometime in the middle of your presentation. I was enraptured. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, I would like to kind of ask a question and make a contribution. Maybe we're back and forth between me and you. I hope it will not take too much time, and then, because a lot of the time that other people are supposed to use, or that we are supposed to close this, So, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
me? Okay, good. Now, I wanted to ask or comment that, would you say sometime in the I'm bringing this comment occurred to me, this question occurred to me. I can't remember now whether it was you, Dr. Adejube, or the presenter that said, sometime, some several minutes ago, that there is more prominent that the African percussion instrumentation in Lagbaja's music is more prominent than the Western electric instrumentation. Well, maybe perhaps that's not exactly how it was said, but that's the basic gist of that comment. So I want to ask, would you say that the African percussion instrumentation is more prominent than the apparently Western electric digital instrumentation? Now, let's forget that the Western electric instruments, they are quite a number. I mean, in its instrumentation, in the general instrumentation of Lagbaja. And of course, I would back that statement up by mentioning, some of them. I mean, in the total agglomeration of instrumentation, you have like 2 keyboards, sometimes even 3. Okay, you have the rhythm guitar. Okay, you have the bass guitar. You have the horns, that is the wind instruments, the trumpets and saxophones and trombones. They are like maybe 4, 5, 6 of them. Then you have the samplers, the vocal harmonizers, the vocoders, and so on and so forth. You have quite a number of these, even on stage, whether it's on stage or even on his recorded music. So I want to just kind of interrogate that statement. That would you say that the African instrumentation is more prominent, or do we defend that prominence of the African percussions by the fact that those African instruments, they do extra musical or extra sonic content in the music of Lagbaja, of which in this dimension I'm talking of them doing a lot of speech surrogacy, a lot of talking, a lot of what Uzoigwe calls drum text. This what we call oral, in Yoruba traditional music. Do we say that? Do we give them the place of more prominence over the Western digital instruments because of the fact that they do these things, these extrasonic things, than basically the Western instruments, they provide a musical background, which may or may not mean anything to somebody who's listening, but the Iyalus, Iyalubata, Iyalu, all those things, they say all those words, all those, all those oral, tòun tèṣù lẹ́lẹ́jọ́, láǹgbà tó dúró lórí èṣù, tòun tèṣù lẹ́lẹ́jọ́. So do we give them more prominence because of this content to their participation in the music? Now, I still have one more question, but perhaps Dr. Adejube, you would like to respond to this before I move on with my next level of comment and question.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Shewaje. I number one, let me say I didn't say that. The comment, I didn't say that, and I can remember that even while I was trying to defend the notion of post-colonialism, where Lagbaja collected the Western attire, the suit in Never Far Away video from the player who were coming, the band, the orchestra who were coming to play. I said it collected the suit, the Western attire from them, but a layman understanding of post-colonialism means that it should collect everything that has to do Western and give them maybe bata, but it still allowed them to play their orchestral instrument, their strings, their violin, the cello, and everything. So I would say that despite the fact that Lagbaja is a pan-Yoruba advocate, Lagbaja himself is a bassist, a saxophonist, a multi-instrumentalist in the Western culture. So it should be difficult to now place more emphasis on playing Yoruba instruments more than the Western instruments. However, I would say that even within the Western instruments, there are some elements of Yoruba identity, Yoruba musical identity that were prominent even in his Western instrument. So even within the bass, yeah, despite the fact that it's a Western instrument, you could hear even the bass moving along with the drumming, with the instrumentation of the drums. The other thing, the other instruments also moving along, working side by side. Both have the Western instruments working instrumentation, working side by side with the African instrumentation. But I wouldn't say that they were prominent more. They were more of the African instrumentation than Western instrumentation. I just discovered that. I just think that there's a blend of both instrumentation, both African and Western instrumentation. That's what I just think.
So I actually was the one that made the statement. So I was referring to it as giving prominence to the local instruments much more than the Western. Fine, it takes very technical people like Shonwaje to know how much Western instruments were on set. There was no way I could have gotten that. But despite the fact that you have such a long list, who would listen to that instrument and give such a list? But it's prominent that we could hear a bata. You even gave credence to them when they were performing, right? We could hear the omele keeping the rhythm behind. We could hear all those local instruments because it's giving them prominence. And I think I appreciate the way you have described it. It wasn't like they were more, but it gave them prominence. And that's what he has done. And that's what he keeps doing with his music. So we're not playing that on the Western, but we're saying over here, Lagbaja has a way of giving prominence to the local instrument. Of course, it was the one that invited the orchestra. They performed with their instrument. But even despite the fact they were there, he gave prominence to his own, to the local instrument much more. And that makes him stand out each time he performs. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you very much. Of course, I like your conclusion too. A good blend of the two. That's more like
blend of the two.
Yeah.
And let me say this. I think I can say that Mr. Shonwaje was one of my interlocutors when I was working on this thesis.
Okay.
I sent some questions to him to also answer.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for that.
Thank you.
You said you have a second question, sir.
Okay, well, basically, it's not really a question. It's just a further comment on this cosmopolitanism dimension to Lagbaja's music vis-a-vis his instrumentation. It's basically just his instrumentation that is coming to me today. I'm just lending more credence to the fact that to what Dr. Adejube just said to his conclusion that it's a tough and nice blend of both. However, there are dimensions. There's the Western instruments dimension to its instrumentation, and of course there's the African instruments dimension to its instrumentation, which I would just basically comment on both. Now that Lagbaja's personal or personality dimension to the cosmopolitanism in his music is that if you know Lagbaja very well, he's personally a very, very adept person, with the language of the samplers and the electronic digital instruments. So Lagbaja, you are looking at Lagbaja, you are not just looking at a musician who knows lines and stays and can compose a few songs. This is someone, is a skilled engineer and producer, who understands how to operate samplers and vocoders and harmonizers and all those things. So, looking at someone like that, there's no way he will be able to do away. So, it's like a stop it and like it thing for him. And I'll explain what I mean by stop it and like it. In the sense that you look at Lagbaja as someone who, if you leave him to himself, he would rather go, he would be someone who would want to go all the way into Yoruba centricism, in his music. Remember, I'm always also speaking from a personal, a personal, what do you call it now, relationship angle to it, in the sense that I actually worked with him for about 1.5 years. Now, if you leave him to himself, he'll actually go all the way into full Yoruba centricism. But alas, he's also someone who has studied, who has worked with samplers and instruments, Western instruments and digital. So he understands the digital language. So it's going to be very, very difficult for him to abandon all that, just, only just, in favor of, Yoruba centricism. Of course, as we have seen his music, we hear his music, we see him doing a lot of horror. We see him doing a lot of speech surrogacy we see him, using a lot of, dundun, Omele, Bata, and so on and so forth. But for the fact that, he is also very, very adept with the language of the MIDI or, digital world. So it's going to be very, very difficult for him to be able to, to abandon that and then go all the way. So it's a tough balance for him, but which, I must say that, he's been able to balance very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for that contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we are coaxing on gradually now. The YouTube link of this or the series is already on our page. You can follow it up and subsequently engage us as well. Or you want to go through these sessions again, it's always there. So thank you very much. How would you conclude, Dr.?
Yeah, by way of conclusion, I'll take it from where Mr. Shonwa just stopped, and then you said something about what is the future, especially when it comes to instrumentation and trying to promote the African sound. I think the African sound today, like what Mr. Shon said, Lagbaja himself is a very vast producer and sound engineer. We use a lot of sampler, but if you notice today, we have a lot of samplers, loops, almost everywhere in almost every musical performance. So I am seeing Lagbaja as someone who is pioneering that concept of samplers and loops, and now we have tracks that people play. Even in churches nowadays, the live musician, the live instrumentalists, they just they back it up. The main music is coming from the sampler, it's coming from one keyboard or one track there. So it's more of a global sound today. A global sound. There's nothing local. So if you can play your gong, your bata, your dundun, and it can resonate globally and not just locally, meaning you are selling the local sound, but you are not making it local alone. You are making it globally accepted, which Lagbaja started. And that's what we have nowadays with the new popular music, Afrobeats, Amapiano, different experiment that is going on. And that also is the cosmopolitan idea that, and the urban soundscape that I am my research interest is focusing right now, is to look within how our local sound. And even if you look at it, I think Mr. Chiwadi can also testify. I think with this other piano, the sound, our local sound is now being incorporated into the different keyboard. Yamaha, the different keyboard, they are now incorporating local sound. You can even play the gong on the keyboard now. So you don't even need to have the gong in itself as an instrument. You can play it, and it's sounding similar nowadays. Yes, you can see differentiate, but it's sounding similar. And all this is in a bid to promote the local sound and make it globally recognized. And we just started it. And that's why I'm here to tell you that, look, this cosmopolitanism we are performing it now. And it's not just only Lagbaja that is performing it now. Popular musicians everywhere are performing cosmopolitanism, and they are bringing the local sound, they are making it globally accepted. And that's where we're going. No wonder we have more Nigerians now nominated for Grammy Awards and for other awards. Thank you so much for this time. I want to appreciate everybody that is on the call. I want to appreciate MTU, the HOD, Dr. Oladele, the presenter, and all the staff in MTU, and also Dr. Dike Olukoya. I think Saturday was a very wonderful session. I was online enjoying the sacralization of popular music and folklore song. It was a very lovely conversation. And we at University of Ibadan, Music Department, we appreciate what
Dr. Diko Lukoya is doing to musical scholarship in Nigeria. It's phenomenal. He's doing a lot and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So.
Thank you to Dr. Adejube. I can say, I want to say you can say that again with respect to what Dr. Lukoya is doing with music scholarship. We can't get enough of what he's doing. Wonderful experience has been. Thank you so much for your own contribution today as well. I wish we could continue to keep expanding the focus, but we can always continue next week. I want to go back to where you started. You said if Lagos had a soundtrack. I appreciate that statement. It sounds very profound to me. If my community, UI, my community, MTU, my office, my immediate environment had a soundtrack, as a scholar, an enthusiast, as a music enthusiast, someone who appreciates what is going on in terms of the soundscape in my environment, how am I contributing to it? How am I adding to it, appreciating it? I may not be a performer, but do I appreciate what is going on there? I may actually be a performer. How well am I contributing with my performance? Lagbaja has done so much that we can't get enough of him. He may not be doing so active as he used to be, but today, look at how wide the scope of his contribution has brought us. So I just want us to take a leaf from his book. If my environment had a soundscape or a soundtrack, how am I contributing to it in terms of appreciation, comments, writing, or playing along? Because that's what Lagbaja has done, which you have brought to the fore now, and which has brought such a robust discussion. Until we meet next week, I hope we'll be able to dissect another very deep understanding. So please, next week, we're inviting you over to come and join us, and let's have a robust discussion like this again. And I'm sure we'll all enjoy it. My name is Adedamola Olaore. Thank you very much.